It's a black night on one of the Orkney Islands, off the far coast of Scotland, and a man is walking home alone along a lonely stretch of road between the sea and the hills, and something is coming toward him. At first, in the dark, he thinks it's a rider on horseback, but it's moving wrong. Too big, too low, and as it draws closer, the last of the light shows him what it actually is, and his mind refuses it. It's a horse. And on the horse's back, a rider, but neither of them has any skin, not a scrap. The horse and the man are one single mass of raw exposed flesh, red muscle glistening, white sinew stretched tight, and black blood coursing visibly through thick yellow veins all over their bodies. The horse has one enormous eye, burning red like a live coal. Its mouth gapes open, wide as a whale's, and out of it rolls a foul, smoking breath. And the rider fused to its back has a head so huge it lolls and rolls from side to side, too heavy for the neck to hold, with arms so long they drag along the ground on either side. One of those arms reaches for him, and the man runs, because he knows, the way everyone on those islands knew, that there is only one thing in the whole world that can save him from the creature at his heels. Not a weapon, not a prayer. Water. Clean, running, fresh water. Let's start with what it is, because I promise you, you've never heard of anything quite like the Nuckelavee. It comes from the folklore of Orkney, the wind-scoured islands off the top of Scotland with deep Norse roots. And it's often called the most horrible, the most malevolent creature in all of Scottish legend. And when you hear the full description, you'll understand why. Picture a horse. Now flay it. Take off all its skin. What you're left with is the lower half of the Nuckelavee, a skinless horse, its legs sometimes ending in fins, because this thing is as much a creature of the sea as the land. Its single red eye glares like a burning flame, and its head is monstrous, with a gaping, protruding mouth like a whale's, now fused to the horse's back. Not sitting on it, growing out of it, is the torso of a man, also skinless. His head is enormous and lolls loosely from side to side, as if it's too heavy for him to control, and his arms are unnaturally long enough to reach down and drag along the ground as he rides. But the detail the old Orkney folk came back to, again and again, was the one I opened with. No skin, anywhere, on any of it. So you could see everything underneath, the raw red muscle, the white tendons, and worst of all, the black blood running through the yellow veins, pulsing all over that exposed body as it moved. It is, quite simply, a nightmare given a shape. But it isn't just there to look horrifying, because the Nuckelavee does something. And that's where it goes from a monster to a genuine terror. The Nuckelavee is a creature of pestilence. Death and disease follow it wherever it goes. That smoking breath pouring from its mouth? It's poison. Where the Nuckelavee passes, its breath is said to wilt the crops in the fields, to poison the wells, and to strike down livestock with the plague the Orcadians called mortashine, a disease that killed their horses and cattle. When an epidemic swept the islands, when the harvest failed, when a drought withered everything and left people facing a winter of starvation, the Nuckelavee was blamed. It was the thing that came out of the sea and brought ruin to the land. So for the people of Orkney, this wasn't a spooky story to enjoy by the fire. This was the face of the forces that could actually kill them, the blight, the plague, the drought, the failed harvest, and they lived in real fear of it. Which raises the obvious question. If this thing is unstoppable, skinless, tireless, breathing plague, dragging its long arms toward you in the dark, then how did anyone on those islands ever survive meeting it? Because they did. And the answer is almost gentle, which is what makes it so strange. The one thing the Nuckelavee cannot do, the horror born of the sea, is cross fresh water. That's it. For all its power, running fresh water stops it dead. A stream, a burn, a river, even the runoff of clean rainwater. The Nuckelavee cannot pass over it. So the survival rule on Orkney was simple and absolute. If the Nuckelavee is chasing you, get across the nearest stretch of fresh, running water, and you're safe. It will rage on the far bank, but it cannot follow. And there were other rules, other pieces of hard-won island wisdom. The Nuckelavee was said to be held in check for part of the year by a sea spirit the Orcadians called the Mythical of the Sea Mother, who confined the creature during the summer months, but in winter, when her power waned, the Nuckelavee was free to come ashore and roam. And there was one thing that could actively enrage it: the burning of seaweed. When the islanders burned kelp, as they really did for the ash, the smoke would send the Nuckelavee into a fury, and it would retaliate with plague and death. But this isn't just a list of monster rules, because we actually have an account from a man who said he lived it. In the 1800s, a folklorist named Walter Traill Dennison did something invaluable. He travelled around Orkney collecting the old stories from the islanders before they were lost forever. And he wrote down the tale of an old man, remembered as Tammy, who swore that he had met the Nuckelavee face to face and lived. Tammy's account is our fullest description of the creature, and it's where most of those horrifying details come from. The skinless bodies, the one red eye, the rolling head, the long arms, the black blood in the yellow veins. He described being caught on a lonely road at night with the thing bearing down on him, its poisonous breath washing over him, one enormous arm sweeping toward him out of the dark. And he described how he survived. He ran for a running stream of fresh water, and as the creature lunged, he leapt across it. The splash of clean water drove the Nuckelavee back, and he escaped into the night, more dead than alive. Whether Tammy really met a monster, or a terrified man on a dark road turned fear and shadow into the worst thing his islands had ever imagined, either way, his story is the reason we can describe it all. So here is the honest verdict. The Nuckelavee is not a creature anyone ever caught, or killed, or proved. It's folklore. The folklore of one small, remote group of islands, written down just in time. But like the best of these, it's precise folklore. Because look at what it actually is, underneath all that exposed flesh. The Nuckelavee is the personification of everything that could destroy an Orkney community. Think about who these people were, living on the very edge of the habitable world, on wind-battered islands, entirely dependent on their crops and their animals to survive the winter. And think about what could wipe them out: disease among the livestock, blight on the crops, drought, epidemic, the cruel, cold sea. Those were the real monsters. Those were the things that came, without warning, and left graves behind. And the Orcadians took every one of those killers, the plague, the blight, the drought, the sea, and they fused them into a single, unforgettable body. They gave it no skin, because nature, when it turns on you, has no mercy and hides nothing. They made it breathe pestilence, because pestilence is exactly what they feared. They gave it the fins of a sea thing and the fury of the land. And then, because human beings cannot live in pure terror, they gave it one weakness: fresh water, the clean running water that meant life, the one thing that could hold back the dark for one more night. That's not a random monster. That's a community drawing a portrait of its own extinction and finding, at the very edge of it, one thin line of hope. And nearly 2 centuries after Dennison wrote it down, the Nuckelavee is still out there in the dark. Because the thing that made it, the fear of the forces that can take everything from you without warning, has never gone anywhere at all. So here's my question for you. Of all the monsters we've sat with at this fire, is the Nuckelavee the most horrifying you've heard? Or is there something worse still waiting out there in the dark? Tell me down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this one, hit like and subscribe, because history is full of the shapes we give to the things that terrify us, and we're far from done dragging them into the firelight. Every legend starts at the fire. This one came up out of the sea with no skin and no mercy, and only a stream of clean water ever sent it back.